Okay, first thing I want to do today is go over the first assignment for Unit 3. So I do want to get this on your plate, and we're going to count on Matt to tell us what this all overlaps with in the other classes. All right, the first part of this is for you to pick a project. If you want one of mine, most people get pretty stuck on either DVD or car maintenance. But you can choose any of these other ones. And there is a student selected table, so if there's a project that you would like to complete for yourself, you may use that, but I think you should bounce the idea off of me first to make sure that you're not tackling something that's too big. So if you have your own, that usually keeps everybody's interest, makes life challenging for me as well because I get to help you with something I've never seen before. But you need to pick one of these, and part one of the assignment is to create the project, icons, all the programming standards, tab orders, titles, all the things that you were getting dinged for back in programming logic beginning before I gave you starters. There are no starters for any of these. So you pick one. It says iDrive, it's time to update it. That's OneDrive. The databases, if you're doing these, I have built the databases. Those you can find on OneDrive. Create the business class. Create class level validation. Test your business class without a GUI is impossible, so for right now, just do the best you can. But what I would like you to do here is for the DVD table, if we go there, the DVD table has a DVD ID, it has a title, a date, a price, a store, a length in minutes, a flag, and a category. So what I want you to basically do here is build a business class for each of those fields. Put in as much validation as you can. You won't be able to test it thoroughly until Unit 2, or Part 2 of this, I should say. Part 2, you add a form. If you wish, you could create a simple form that just lets you test these things. That's not my focus. And see if you can build a class. So if you're doing car maintenance, you get a maintenance ID, a date, a service that's being performed, the mileage on your car, the cost, whether or not it's under warranty, the description of what was done, the vehicle that you did it to, what shop did the work, and so on. So you can pick one of mine, or you can pick one of yours. Again, if you've got one of yours, talk to me about it. What's required for part one is simply the business class. That's it. I should create a project. I'd put the icon and stuff in there, but just the business class, put the fields in, put the members in, add as much validation as you can. Questions about what I'm looking for here? So this shouldn't really be anything new here. Business classes you've been doing since Unit 1, you're practicing again now. So this should just be, here's another example of building a business class. So given that's the assignment, when do we want to make that due? Gas estimate is due this Friday.
We move that to Tuesday,
Can we move that to Tuesday?
and then make this.
We got all day Thursday.
Make this do the 24th.
Oh my God, the 24th? This is just part one. No.
Oh, I meant no, I meant 17th.
I'm not doing you guys any favors if I say yes.
Mm.
Because we're going to be going through part one. We're already through part one, right? I'm not telling you how to build a class here. I've already built a class. So this is kind of the background that you're doing for building the real stuff, which doesn't start happening, I think, until Unit 2. No, I already closed it. So, or part 2. Let me go take a look at what part 2 looks like. Another opportunity, another option is potentially just merge them. We did that already with the gas estimate program. It's just merge part 1 with part 2. Part 2, create the GUI, includes a selection grid, which you haven't learned how to do, but you'll learn today. A search box you'll learn pretty soon. Details, validating events for all the fields, key press. This is a bigger one.
I don't think you should merge them.
Zach?
Can we move the gas estimate to Tuesday the 10th and then do the first part of this on Friday the 13th?
Yeah.
You like that? Because the class part of this shouldn't be too much, and if it feels like it's going to be too much, don't forget make yourself a task list if you're not sure. But if you feel like it's going to be too much, so you want to move, I'm going to change project, so you want to move this to be due the 13th. Okay?
Yeah.
And that's just part one, just so you keep that in the back of your mind. And we'll move the gas program to Tuesday, which lets you screw up your weekend. Don't forget the lab is open on Thursday, even though I'm not here. And I expect at least one lab assistant for every hour that you're here that day. So either Paul or Reen or Harold, somebody will be here. I sure hope you come in here and work on some of this stuff, because doing it on your own, as these guys can tell you, as a couple other people can tell you, doing this on your own without somebody to get you over some of the hurdles is a real challenge. And they're here. I would not consider that a day off. It's not a day off for me. I have to go to exciting meetings, so you guys should have to be excited too and do good stuff. So Thursday, and we're talking about part 2, gas estimate. This big ugly thing is now going to be due Tuesday.
Thanks.
You may not thank me, but I'll do it. Questions on that?
Then we should.
You're probably starting to see how this overlaps with some of your other classes. Get used to that. It's not going to stop any. Next semester, you'll have 3 classes again, and so on. So get used to balancing these things. And this is why I suggested early on in the semester that you not only write down when it's due, but you write down when you're going to work on it. Set aside, if you can, a couple of hours. Well, technically, it's supposed to be 10 hours a week, right? Outside of class to work on programming logic. Because the rules at other colleges, for every hour that you spend in class, you should be spending 2 outside. Now, I don't remember if I did that or not. Not sure. But I think if you added it all up, you come pretty close to that. The only downside is you're taking those 10 hours a week and you're lumping them into one, maybe even 20 hours into one big pile. Oh my God, I got to get this done. Versus spread it out. You can set aside hours every day for programming logic, hours every day for RDD, hours every day for systems, and whatever else you got. Might be happier, but not really my position to tell you how to study and get your work done. But juggling between all these classes, that's going to be a nightmare of yours for a couple of semesters to come. Comments, questions? All right, last time we talked about the concepts. I just want to hit those again very, very quickly, and then we'll move on. We've got a GUI form that wants data. Somehow it has to request it. Today we're going to see a different way of requesting data. It's going to request that data. That data request goes to the business class. Business class issues the fill command to the table adapter. Table adapter gets the data, or sends a query. This is where the SQL command is, hard to read. This is where the SQL command is, sends that to the database. The database gives you the data back. That data needs to be stored in a data table. This is all stuff we're going to learn how to do in the next couple of days. The data is stored in a data table. From there, we write code to transfer it from the data table into our business class properties. And then once it's in the properties, then we can tell the GUI, go ahead and suck it out of the properties and display it on the form. So this circle goes on and on and on. We do it over and over and over again. The good news is every time we hit the database, this connection is automatically opened, and as soon as we get our data, it's automatically closed. The other thing to keep in the back of your mind is that the data that we get out of the database, we get a copy stored in this data table. This data table is not directly connected to the database. We ask for data, we get a copy, we store it in a data table. So any changes we make, we have to also remember to issue another command to take the copy and put it back out to the database. All of this is what we have to learn how to do so that we can do CRUD processing on a desktop app. But the good news is the 3-tier model type thing works very similarly, in a web application. Works very much the same way in a mobile application. So once you get your head around this, we'll be in good shape. So last time we went through the process of creating our table adapter. And if I remember right in this class, that's right, in this class I messed it up. So I'm going to delete it. If you want to follow along, you can. If you do it right, you shouldn't have to go through this process. I messed it up. I missed a step. So I'm going into, let's see, where is it? I want to say either my references or app config. I'm going to go to my references. Nope, how about app config? Nope. Where is it? Not config. It's not the CS. Where's that hiding? Properties, maybe? Yep, there we go. Under properties, there's the settings, and there's my connection string. And when I built it, I neglected one step. So I want to build it again, plus it'll be a good review. So I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to right-click it and remove the setting. It's going to go, you sure? No, I didn't even do that. It's now gone. And my XSD is still here. That might be okay. We'll see how it works out. Maybe I want to delete that too. So now if I go back to my data sources, there are none. Oh, really? My connection string is gone. So the lesson here is do this right the first time. If yours is there, just leave it. I think it's going to be safer. I could be screwing this up to the point where I want to start over again completely. If you want yours to look like mine, go download the 4 o'clock version, because there I didn't do it wrong. So now that's gone. What about my data sources? Now my data sources are gone. So what I did is delete both my connection string and my XSD. I'm going to add a new data source. This is the same process we went through last time. It's review, except I'm going to show you one step that I missed. Next. Looks like I already have a connection. Nope, doesn't know who I'm connecting to, but it's an access connection. So I'm going to browse for my database and go through this process one more time. My program is on the desktop. Here's my database. Go. Next. Do I want to save it? What I did in the other class, I think this step is optional, is rename the connection to con pizza or con order. Let's put it that way, orders. This is my connection for orders. Here's where we said tables. I want to bring in all my tables, and this is where I missed a step. It's in my notes, but I missed it. Down here at the bottom is the name that's going to be applied to our data set. That's a big, ugly name. Remember from our picture that the data set is this guy in here. All right, it's a data set. We need to give it a name because we're going to refer to it a lot. And so I'm going to call this DS orders. That's the part I forgot. Finish. Darn. There's my connection. So that's good. Did I get an XSD? I did. What's in the XSD? My tables. So whatever it was complaining about is okay. So now I'm back to where we were. With a data set that's named properly. Notice here's my DS orders XSD. That had a bad name. Easier to change it by rebuilding it, kind of like what we're doing in RDD. So if you wish, I can pause the recording and you can go get a copy of Pizza Order 4 if you want to follow along, or just watch and I can help you tweak yours. If you want me to wait, say wait. Okay, remember the XSD contains two things. First of all, it contains an XML version of the description of our table structure. There's no data here. It's just the constructors. The structure the fields and their types. So ID, if I click on it over here someplace, it'll tell me there's its name and somewhere it's got a type. Max length, its type is system int 32, integer. Order date is a date. Customer first name is a string size 15. Customer last name is a string size 20. So every one of these, it has gotten that information out of the database and stores it as a local copy of that structure as text. How that works behind the scenes is all magic, doesn't matter. The good news is when we built this, all that came in automatically. The other thing it has is the fill command. The fill command is the command that gets executed through this connection. Remember, here we're asking for the fill command. It's one of these SQLs. The fill command gives me data. Let's take a look at the command itself. If you right-click the command and configure, you can see what's inside. And here you have a command that you might recognize. I think I told you last time, maybe not, that we could do this. Does that look familiar? To everybody except Kyle, maybe. He looks familiar. Right? It's got the star. So this says select all the fields, all the records from the order table. That we just saw in RDD. And so this was pre-programmed for us because Microsoft Visual Studio has said, you're probably sometime going to want everything. The answer is no, I never want everything. But it gives it to me so I can manipulate it. And what this did is listed each one of the fields individually instead of the star. The star means give me all the fields. This lists all the fields individually. The only advantage to that long version is I can edit it. If I change a field name, I can tweak this. Sometimes I change it to star, other times I leave it. Let's just leave it for now. So that came with it. When we built this thing, we got all the fields with all the right types, and we got a command to go get me all the data. Then at the end of the hour last time, I demonstrated how we can use that and the data source. What do you mean there's no data source? Liar, I hope. But if I can't see the data source, why is there no data source? What I showed you before is once the data source is here, we could drag from that data source and make a form. Don't usually do it. So I'm kind of hoping that this data source is here. There's my DSXSD. Why it's not showing up in my data sources, I'm not sure. I'm going to plow along here, see how it goes. If all else fails, I'll have a better version from the 4 o'clock, and that's what I'll have you open next week when we pick up. All right, I apologize for the confusion. That's what I get for going too fast. Inside here, it talks about all the stuff we're supposed to do. Connected databases, adding a data source, and I missed a step. Inside here that said rename them. Name the connection and the data sets appropriately. I missed that step. So I have to be a little more careful. There's the names that I was supposed to do. And there's the instructions. So if you follow my instructions instead of following my recording for a change, you'll be better off in this case. Now what I want to be able to do is view that data. I showed you these techniques where I just dragged it over there and all the data was there. Except it was bypassing my 3-tier model and there's no way to validate through the business class. So we're not using those techniques. So today I'm going to show you the technique I prefer you use. And that's using something called a selection grid, and that's my term. Right, this is just a term. This is a technique that I've used in all my projects. My customers are very happy with it. It allows them to select a record to look at and immediately see it, and then select a different one and immediately see it. So what we're going to do is create a selection grid on the form that allows the user to pick a pizza order. And every time they pick one, ultimately we're going to show them the details over here. As your program gets used, there'll be lots and lots of pizza orders. I might want to filter those. Only show me the orders that Kyle has placed. beyond the scope of this lesson, but I could say only show me the orders that are in the month of June for 2014 and narrow that list down. Lions Camp, we've got 3,000 campers. First thing we want to do is narrow that down. Give me the campers, his last name is Smith. Okay, here's 10. So we're going to do the same thing here. Before we can create this grid, we have to create a brand new table adapter to fill it with data. Because in the grid, here's your list of customers, or here's your list of pizza orders. In order to fill that list, I need a brand new in the XSD, and even if yours is all messed up like mine is, you should be able to follow along here and practice doing one of these. I want to add a new table adapter. This table adapter has the ability to get me data, all of this data, all of these fields. If I only want to use a couple of them, it's still going to bring all that data in. And I think I mentioned to you last time that my philosophy in these programs is minimalist. I'm going to bring in the minimum amount of data that I need to solve my problem. If I bring this in, I'm bringing in every single record, every single field, and I don't need all that for my lookup. If I want to pick a pizza order, I'm probably going to want to pick the customer who placed it and the date they placed it on. This is part of what you have to think about when you build your programs. How do you pick a record? How do you tell one record from another? Minimal data here. Dates, no, I hope to have hundreds of pizza orders on the same date. Customer, maybe. Okay, but I probably, I'm watching Trevor back there, I probably have lots of pizza orders for Trevor over time. So that's still going to make it hard. I need a combination of the two. I want to see what he ordered yesterday. So I need a combination of the two. So I'm going to create a brand new table adapter that only returns to me the customer's name and the date that they placed the order. Here we go. I'm going to add a brand new table adapter. So the bottom line of that, if you ever need different field sets, all fields, I don't want all fields, you have to create a new table adapter. You don't have to, but if you don't, you're wasting memory, bringing in a bunch of data that you don't need. I'm going to create a brand new table adapter. Which connection do you want? That one. Don't have too many choices here, do I? You want to use SQL to get data. Yes, that's what I want to do. What SQL command do you want? Oh, it's a good thing most of you are trained in SQL. Those of you who are not, bring bribes for everybody else. No, I'll help you. What I want to get from my database, and oh, I'm sorry. Those of you who don't know this, you don't have to bribe anybody. Let's talk Microsoft Access. Which table do you want? This one. Which fields do you want? Oh, I'm going to start with the date, and then the customer last name, and then the customer first name. Notice down here what's happening? This is what you never get to see in Access. You pick stuff, and it builds SQL. Cool. For those of you learning SQL, you don't have to use this builder. You can just go type it in. Of course, then you'll mistype field names and do a few other things. Now, I'm not quite done, because what I don't want is the customer last name and first name in two different columns. I want to put them together. I want to concatenate those. Can I do that in SQL? Yes. Turns out in Access, it's very easy. In the next unit in MySQL, we're going to be doing it as well. It's a little more complicated there, not much. Here, all I need to do to concatenate is concatenate. I know that's hard to read, but that's very similar to the concatenation that you've done, and I can't make it bigger, unfortunately. It's very similar to the concatenation that you've done. This is my last name plus quotation marks, comma, space, quotation marks, plus customer first name. That says take those two fields, stick them together, put a comma and a space in between while you're at it. Then the last step, I'm going to add an as clause. And I'm going to give this calculated field a brand new name like cust name. I can test it. Execute. There's Vokergall. Here I've got an order date with some times. We'll get those times stripped out of there later, not a problem. And I can scroll through and see all the different people who have ordered. The other thing you haven't learned how to do yet, and I think my field list here has changed. Nope, it still has, or there it is. It's changed. You haven't learned how to sort yet. We can do that here. I think I want my most recent pizza orders first. Why would I want to see my 1977 orders at the top of the list and have to scroll 100 miles to get to the current ones? I'd rather see the current ones first, and then for some goofy reason I do want to see the 1997 pizza orders, I can scroll to those. Within an order date, there could be ties, right? I hope to have hundreds of orders on a day. Break that tie by using the customer name. And again, notice what's happening down here. Order by, order date descending, and then order by the customer name concatenated to the first name. Without the order by clause, you get the orders in the order they were entered in the database, which is just auto number field order, which means nothing. Well, in a pizza order table, wouldn't my most recent pizzas be at the end? Maybe. But what if it's a brand new program and in our spare time we have some administrative assistant typing in pizza orders from 1997 because they're not in my database? They'll be given some random automatically generated ID number for 1997, and then 2 minutes later somebody's going to enter Steve's order for the pizza for today. So it is your job to make sure these are sorted the way you want them. They should appear in the grid when we're done in a particular order. And if I now execute this query again, make it a little bigger, the 12-14 pizzas are at the top and the dates are working their way down. Wherever there's a tie, they're sorted by name. All of that, the order by clause, concatenation, is part of what those of you in RDD are going to be learning next week. What does all that mean? So you could type this manually, or you can use the builder. I often use the builder even though I know SQL. I use it just because it keeps me from making mistakes. The DESC here means descending, sort backwards. All this got built for us. You click on OK and it transfers it into here for you automatically. You can skip that step and type this manually, but you can guess how many mistakes you're going to make typing all that. Plus, in the query builder, you can execute it and see the results and go, yep, that's what I want. Once this is done, you click Next. And remember, this whole process is to build a brand new table adapter. What do you want to call this? I can call it Fill, or I can change the name. By default, it's named Fill. I've never changed this down here, but I have changed the name sometimes. And let's see, does this ask me to change the name? Create a new table adapter, add it. Click the query builder, select, use the sort, note the SQL command. Nope, don't need to change it. So we'll just leave it. If you want to change it, you can and say fill lookup or something. But fill is a pretty simple command. Updating queries cannot automatically be generated. What this is telling us is you've got stuff with a calculated field. I can't update that. That's okay, I'm not changing any of this data. This data is only being used in a list. Pick a customer, pick an order. I'm never changing those, not directly. I'm never changing them, so this is fine. No, I don't want a primary key. If I want, oh, wait a minute. Oh. I gotta go back because I missed a field. I need my order ID. Otherwise, how am I going to tell which order it was that I picked? So I'm going to go back to the builder and say, I want that order ID. I'm going to type it. Ooh, it's got a capital D. Does that matter? Probably not. But I'm going to type it with a capital ID. 5 years ago, I switched from capital IDs, ID, to capital I, little d, and I still haven't found all the places where it sneaks up on me. I need the ID. So I'm a little disheveled here today. When you build this, you always need the ID because that's what uniquely identifies my order, right? The customer clicked on this. He wants pizza order number 17. That was on this date for that guy. So it's a good thing it warned me. And now notice all the blue check marks. If you get warning triangles there, that's not too bad. If you get red X's here, something's wrong with your SQL. Then you go back and you try to figure out what it is. You do like Lyle did during the last class. I look at it and go, extra comma here, extra semicolon there, whatever. I help you. For this table adapter, all it is for lookup. I'm only getting, there's no CRUD processing here. There's no update, there's no create, there's no delete. I just want to read. In CRUD processing, that translates to select. As long as there's a blue check mark on select, you're good. If the rest of these are wacky, don't worry about it. As long as there's a blue check mark on select, that's all I'm going to do. Finish. Now I have a new table adapter that has 1, 2, 3 fields. You always need your ID number in your lookup. Always. And then these happen to be my logical keys. They're very often the logical keys. How do I tell one pizza order from another? Same way I tell if it's a duplicate. If I have two the same, that's going to be a problem when I'm trying to figure out, show me Trevor's order for today. If I have two Trevors, how do I tell them apart? By date. So if your design has a logical key in it, that's what you'll use here for lookups. I don't like this name, TBL orders, so I'm going to change it to TBL order lookup. I use the abbreviation LU. I'm looking up one order, though there's a bunch in, there will be a bunch in here. I'm going to be looking up one order using this. That's in my notes. I like to put the lookup on there, say this is only for lookup purposes. That's its purpose in life. Better follow my notes, make sure I don't screw anything up. So here, I should have read carefully. Include the primary key first, generally. Then the minimal number of fields required for the user to determine one record from another. Could put in there the logical keys. If you've got them, you know what they are, use the logical keys. We sorted. Note it built an SQL command for us. Click on OK. Order ID, order date, last name, first name as customers, sorted by order date, last name, first name. That's what we did. Here it teaches us how to do that concatenated field. Okay, can use an ampersand. You're used to plus signs, might as well use them. And here's a sample of that. Rename the table adapter. We did that. And you can resize these things. Sometimes it's nice to be able to see all the fields. Sometimes I like to collapse them. So that's all I see. If I really need to see what's in, I can collapse the queries as well. If I really need to see what's inside, I can expand them. You can also resize these. I like to see all the fields so I can see the field names in case I need them. That's optional, doesn't matter. Any changes you make to this, like how these are aligned, I'm anal, so the tops are nice and aligned. Actually, sometimes I put these underneath because this is a lookup for that major table. Once you're done, you got these laid out the way you want them. Hit save all. What I discovered a couple of years ago is you just hit a save, it might not save the layout. It saves the contents, but it doesn't save the layout for some reason. So I'm going to do a save all, and it should save this layout, so when I come back, these will look like this, even if it's 3 weeks from now. Even doing a save all, every now and then, Visual Studio says, nah, that's a stupid order. It rearranges them, just makes them go across the screen for about an hour, and then you get to drag them all around again. I don't know why it does it. That was painful. Now let's do something with this. There's the save all and the close. I need some way on my form to select new orders. Which order does the customer want to see? First thing I'm going to do is get rid of my test string up here, it's taking up space. Then I'm going to make my screen a little bit bigger. And I'm going to grab everything except the pizza itself down there. I'm going to control-click the pizza to remove it from the list. I missed. I'll move it back. And just move over to make some room. And then up here, I'm going to put kind of a super combo box. Because I need to display the date that the order was placed and the customer's name. That's 2 columns. Doing that in a combo box or even a list box is difficult. So what I'm going to use as my tool is under Data, there is a Data Grid View. It's designed, you saw one last week when I dragged that grid on, we saw this data sheet view from Access. Here's all your fields and all your records. That's what a data grid view does. I'm not going to connect it directly to the database, but I'm going to use it anyways because it's got some cool features we're going to take advantage of. There's my grid. Where do I want it to go? Oh, we'll make it about that big. Don't worry about how big it is just yet. We're going to customize its size later. Need to give it a name. I always call it GRD for Grid Select. If you call it the same thing in every one of your programs, you can copy and paste a lot of code. I always have a selection grid like this in my desktop version of Assignment Tracker, desktop version of Attendance Tracker, desktop version of my Independent Study students. All of those use a selection grid to start with. They're all called Grid Select. I can copy a lot of code. Double click it, name it Grid Select. In order for the grid to fill up, we need a binding source. You also saw some of those. Remember when I dragged the grid down the bottom of the form, all these things got created automatically. Well, in this case, it's not going to be created out automatically. You and I are going to tie it together. The binding source is going to kind of communicate with the business class between the grid. The binding source also has some other benefits, like I can sort it differently. I can filter it if I want to. That's why we use this, so let's go get one. The binding source should be in the same place. Here it is. The binding source is not a visible component. It's a behind-the-scenes guy, so it goes into the component tray down here. I want to give it a name, and according to my notes, BS order lookup, binding source. Binding source order lookup. This binding source is used to help me look up orders. That's its purpose in life. That's why I name it that. Now I have the basic tool for looking stuff up. It's a little tall, but I'll fix that later. The next thing we need to do is go get some data. However, in our 3-tier model, the grid, even the binding source are in the GUI. They're on the form. They do not go to the database directly. They have to go through the business class. And so now for the first time, we're going to expand our business class to do some data access. Using a 3-tier architecture, add a new method to the business class. So here comes the business class, changing gears now from the GUI to the business class. And we're going to have a lot of these methods that are just for data access, so I keep them separate from my custom methods. So I'm going to add a region called data access methods. Whether you put it at the bottom, at the top, the regions don't matter too much. In between here is where I'm going to put anything that talks to the database. In my notes, you have an example of how to get data out of the database. Oh my goodness. How ugly is that? First of all, this is my method name. It is public. It is static. Every pizza order uses the same method to get data out of the database. They get different data, but every pizza order uses the same method. That's why it's static. Remember, it's shared. There's another way of saying static. Then I'm going into, do I really need that? I must. That's my data set. Remember the one I forgot to rename? This says, remember our methods? Our methods have access. They have a name. That's the name of my method. And they return something. Methods can return something, right? This one returns something really complicated. It returns an entire lookup table. An entire lookup table is what this method sends. It sends it to the GUI, and then the GUI plugs it into the grid. So that's what that says. This data set, DS orders, is what we just created using our XSD. Inside there, we just created a query order lookup table adapter. The query order lookup table adapter is automatically connected to a data table. Holy cow. So let's start and explain that again a little slower. Public, so that my GUI can get to it. Static, meaning every single instance of a pizza order uses the same method. They share it. Then what does it return? It returns a DS orders dot query, because I built a query. Oh, some dummy didn't name it right. This has been a bad couple of weeks. I wonder why I'm so distracted. Going back to the XSD real quick. This is not a table. I misnamed it. And none of you corrected me when you saw it in my notes. Shame on you. QRY. To tell me this is not a table adapter, it's a query adapter. I'm looking to get partial table information. Save all that again. Now when I go back here, the query will give me a list. There it is. So go to this is the XSD. Remember over here it's called DS orders right there. Go to the XSD and link me up with that query order lookup. The data table is where the data is going to be stored. And it happens automatically. We don't have, this is cool, we don't have to define a data table. Then what do we want to call this? This is it pizza orders or just order? Order lookup table. That's the name of my method. That's the expert that I'm going to call. I don't have to send him any information. Not yet. This says, hey you, Nathan, go do your job. He goes out to the database and gets me my lookup data every single time. Every time I call him, he does exactly the same thing. Talks to the database, said, hey, I need the lookup data, and we get the current data. He does exactly the same thing. The database gives him different data. I'm getting yelled at because I said I'm going to return something. I haven't done it yet. So back to my cheat here. I'm going to create a variable. That means figure out its type on your own is what var kind of means. Remember, this is also a shortcut pointer to something. In C#, my perspective of var is you figure out the type. It's going to be a pointer. You figure out the type instead of making our own types. In the past, I've put this DS query order lookup data table thing in there. You don't need to do that. My students last year showed me this technique. It's much simpler. We're going to go with it. I'm going to call this my TA, my table adapter. When Nathan does his job, he's first got to go to the table adapter. So he needs a variable for that. And it's going to be a brand new DS orders table adapter. Good news is it all shows up on the list. Which table adapter do you want for the query? I'm reminding myself of my Swift class right now. I'm giving you code. And you might not necessarily understand how it works. I'm going to try to explain it, but you might still not understand how it works. Good news is it doesn't change much. You change the name, you change the type of data you're getting, and that's it. Every time I want to get data out of the database, this is what this does, is it gets data out of the database. Let me finish it, then I'll explain it. Var data set, I believe, or is it data table? Yep. Data table equals a new ds orders dot query order data table. You're so lucky. That was so much longer last year. Parentheses. Were there parentheses on the top one? Should have been. Whenever you say new, you're calling a method, right? A constructor. So you got to have parentheses. Pretty sure that's right. Yep. Okay. What does this mean? Going back to my picture. I have it handy somewhere. Let's put it in there so we don't screw up the other one. We already created 2 data tables in my XSD. Here's my XSD, my data set. We created 2 data tables, one that gets everything that we haven't used yet, and another one that we just created. Let's go back there. That we just created to do our lookup. So we've got 2 of these table adapters. In the business class, in order to use one of these table adapters, it's a class. We have to instantiate it. So right here we said, give me a new one of those lookup table adapters. Give me a new one of these. So one of these gets created. Think of these as classes, but now the business class is actually instantiating one of these, creating one. And then it also says, oh, by the way, I need a data table as well. Because whenever we get data, we're getting ready to execute one of these. Whenever we get data, we need to be able to store it someplace. Where'd this guy come from? Whenever you create a table adapter, Visual Studio automatically creates a data table class that corresponds to it. This guy has 1, 2, 3 columns, 3 fields. This guy is going to have 1, 2, 3 fields. They're automatic. The classes get built for us automatically. All we're doing is using them. So what we're doing in our code is saying, okay, I'm going to make a connection through here, so give me a new table adapter. While you're at it, give me a new data table so that when I get my answer, I got someplace to store it. That's what these 2 commands do. Instantiate a table adapter so I can talk to the database. Create a data table so I can store the results. Then we issue the fill command. The what? The fill command. For this says, for this table adapter, fill it. Remember the fill guy? For this table adapter, issue the fill command, which issues that lovely query that we wrote. It executes that query. This query will send back data. When the data comes back, this says, put it in there. So now we've kind of filled a circle. We started in the middle in the business class. We said, give me one of these table adapters. Give me a data table. Execute the fill command. Okay, here's your data. And put the results in there. Every single time we go to the database, we have to say which table adapter we're going to use and where do you want the answer put. That's what these 1, 2, 3 lines do. You're going to see those over and over and over again. Give me a table adapter. Give me a data table. Okay, now execute the fill command and put the answer in there. And then the last step is return this to whoever asks. When I call Nathan, he's going to do his magic and he's going to have this lovely table adapter with 3 columns and a whole bunch of rows. I picture just one big, huge thing. He squishes it all together and he says, whoever called, the GUI, whoever called, here you go, take this. Here's your data that you requested. He's in the business class. He doesn't display anything, but he does talk to the database, and he sends data back to the GUI. Magic. Let's see if it works. What do we do with that? And then we'll take a break. Need a nice description on the top. Let's steal this so I don't have to type too long. This method retrieves the data needed to look up orders. You don't have to say anything about creating table adapters and data that's details. What's its purpose in life? It retrieves the data that I need for lookups. Now, how do I use it? There's all the descriptions that I've been talking about for the last 15 minutes. And now I want to tie them together. I want to tie this thing that gets sent back to my grid. I'm going to create another new method, but this one I'm going back to the GUI now. The GUI is getting ready to accept this data so I can see it. In form load, I have initialized form, and now I'm going to add a new expert called load the grid. This could be Tyler, and I say, Tyler, do your job. And once again, he doesn't need any information. He knows how to do this. He's going to go to the business class because he has a buddy in the business class who can get him grid data, and then he's going to put it in my form. Now I got to tell Tyler how to do his job. Load the grid would come before here. Because we're in the GUI, it's private. I'm not sharing this with anybody. He's not going to return anything. He's just going to fill the grid for me and tell me I'm done. His name is load the grid, and I don't have to send him anything. Every time you write a method, you have to think about, is it private or public? What does it return? What's the name? And what do you guys send in? In this case, Tyler's easy to communicate. I pick up the phone, say, Tyler, it's me. He goes, oh, cool, hang on a second. I'm done. Choo. That's it. It's the only communication that happens. I call him, and I did that right here in load, right? I call him, and he says, hang on a second. Does his magic. He said, I'm done. Your grid should be full. That's all going to happen here. This method loads the data into the lookup grid. Okay. Now inside here, what are we supposed to do? First thing we have to do is tell the data source, hey, here's your data. The data source is kind of like another temporary holding location. And then we link the grid to the source. 2 lines of code, that's it. The first line says bs order lookup dot data source equals, and now Tyler is calling his buddy in the business class, pizza order dot order lookup. That's Nathan, right? At least that's the example. I think that's the example I used before. And so Tyler calls Nathan and says, Nathan, do your job. Nathan goes out to the database, gets all the data that we need, and he sends it back to Tyler. He sends it back. Tyler connects it to my binding source. Down here. This binding source now has data in it. Last step, hook that up to the grid. And you have to do this in the right order. You have to get data, then hook it up to the grid. You can't connect to the grid and then get data. It doesn't work. Grid select that data source, think, equals my binding source. Is that it? Yep. So here's our full circle. We started up here. And form load caused this to happen. There's no buttons, there's no nothing, but we still went to the business class and said, give me the lookup data. Form load called Tyler. Tyler called his buddy in the business class, said, Nathan, please go get me the data. Nathan makes a data table, calls the table adapter, gets the data, fills this up, and sends it back to the GUI. Tyler then connects that to the binding source and connects the binding source to the grid. And it crashes, and that's because of all that junk I did wrong. So while you're taking a break, I'm going to try to fix this. And then we'll come back and see what it looks like, I promise. Take 10.